fine nuance differences in the South, but I think there's a huge difference between the urban and rural.
Oh, God. Oh, absolutely. Well, there's more slang in the rural. For sure. Same in Jersey.
I've got cousins that live in the northwest corner of Alabama, and I need to keep them.
Yeah, and because they grow up in one culture and all talk that way, so you're learning it the same way you were hearing it every day. So when you walk away from that, it's just like the languages in Europe are similar, but they're all different. And they grew up like within 20 miles of each other. They speak completely separate languages.
Have you seen my friend?
Yeah, we noticed this. We did never considered Maryland a southern state or Delaware.
Well, neither do I.
Virginia was like half and half because it was near the nation's capital.
Well, not Delaware, but Maryland is technically southern.
You know, part of New Jersey is below the nation's. Yeah, Cape May, New Jersey is below the nation's.
Well,
there's time.
Part of New Jersey.
It's beautiful.
We're just chasing you down.
If you look at the map, Maryland is here,
Trying
New
to
Jersey
parallel
comes
park.
down.
With the
Baltimore
phone.
is
Was
actually
that you called me?
That was me. Don't worry about
north
calling me back.
of Cape May, New Jersey. And everybody's like,
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the
No
line goes
responsibility.
straight across.
no, it does. It actually goes up and it cuts off just the lower third, lower quarter of New Jersey.
My wife was born and
Well, how?
She's still asleep at one point. She tried to
Waking up slowly. Coffee's good.
You do know how
Yeah, that's a tough one to call. That's
Well,
pushing the
geographically
boundary.
maybe, but West Virginia only existed because that part of the state split from Virginia and joined the Union during the war.
A lot of that
In
history
hindsight,
is
that was
kind
the right
of,
thing to do.
yeah, unfortunately, that history's a little blurred in the world. Because I actually watched one part of an episode of Sherman's March on Georgia PBS. It was a history I had never heard before on what happened. And of course, that was historically represented differently to both sides. Now, which one's the correct one? I don't know. I listened to
The truth usually lies somewhere
in between, like the X-Files. That's back on again. I can't believe Mulder and Scully are like in their 70s. New series.
That's a new thing.
Coming back, retro.
Old shows and Will and Grace.
Yep.
Somebody else.
All right.
It's just,
I didn't know you tell me.
they're running out of creative ideas, so they're
Well,
just, let's go back to
been
what worked.
doing that for years. You know, how many times have they made Spider-Man?
Well, how many superheroes are we gonna have in movies now?
I got the new.
Well, at least, Stan Lee did.
Stan Lee's,
And you take like a
Didn't he
little
just-
shot glass.
he just died, but his estate must be worth billions.
Big blue pill.
Did Stan does?
I think he did.
Yeah, it was just recently, he's in his late 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing Marvel since the 50s.
Yeah.
We started.
Yeah.
Partners.
And I was
Soon
a
as
comic
everybody
book
settles
guy.
down.
I was too, but I was a
Let's
decent.
get started as soon as everybody.
I was whenever the barbershop ordered comics, right? Because I couldn't afford them. We used to go sit there all morning on Saturday.
I was the Superman, Batman, Justice League of America group. And it's funny because
I was Batman, Thor were my two big ones.
the Marvel stuff, the ones that have really done well with movies, DC stuff hasn't.
I think there was a lot of regionalization of where comics were popular by whatever.
Okay.
Where-
Okay, everybody.
All right.
Let's take our seats.
Jay.
10 o'clock.
Jay is coming.
Oh, okay, he parking?
Yes, somewhere.
I think Pete is also coming, but he may or may not be.
Is he okay? Yeah, I know you
He
spoke
sounds
to
like
him.
he's battered and bruised. For the record, Pete took a topple in the square outside of Savannah Theater.
Chippewa.
He tripped on something,
That's Reynolds Square.
and he went down
that's
Chippewa.
Outside of Savannah Theater, Chippewa.
Yeah, Chippewa.
Reynolds.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Reynolds
Thank
is at the
you.
Lucas.
Thank you.
And you guys are from here, you can't
Yeah,
remember.
it's my district. I get the.
I know we have squares.
So it's just an update. He's okay. He didn't
Good,
hit his
good.
head, break his neck or anything, but he came down apparently pretty hard on his two hands, and he's got his fingers going backwards and strained his knees, and so on and so forth. So we will wish him well, and he like I said, he may or may not make it. So Beverly, would you like to take the roll call for us?
Certainly.
Or
Carol, but not
Carol?
next.
We're training Beverly's replacement here.
Okay. We do have a set of the coffee.
Chairman French,
Here.
Mr. Broker,
Here.
Mr. Ellis?
Here.
Mr. O'Halloran?
Here.
Mr. Durance?
Here.
Ms. Odell?
Here.
Mr. Jones? Mr. Lakakis? And Mr. Mangledorf?
Here.
I would like to make a motion if Pete does not make it, to excuse Pete from the.
Yes,
from the
absolutely.
meeting.
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, we really only have one item today, and that's to continue our discussion and to vote on the Code of Conduct Ethics Policy that we are looking to implement. Mike, you want to?
Yes, issue for board consideration and adoption of a CAT Board of Directors Code of Conduct and Ethics Policy.
Okay, I mean, I guess I'll start with this, and then we'll open it up for discussions briefly. But I don't want to spend a lot of time going in circles. And I think, we had a fairly long discussion on this last week, and I think, Chester, you talked to Ty
Yeah.
yesterday.
Ty and I spoke, yeah.
So like I said, we'll open it up for discussions, but I don't want to spend all day here on this.
Tuesday, not last week. I know it seems like
Tuesday. Well, it does seem like that. That's what happens when you go out of town, get up at 4 in the morning. So the reason we are looking to do this is an enhancement to our board policy that has always been in place. And the board policy is not a document that is signed. And we feel that Terry will help me out if I go off the rails on this, but the FTA would prefer that board members sign these ethic documents or policy manuals to have assurance that the board, all the board members have read it, they understand it, and they abide by it. We developed, the one that we've developed is an enhancement to our board policy based on some conversations we had with the FTA when they were here in November. And we sensed from the conversations they had with me and with Terry and Curtis and other people within CAT that we needed to include a couple items in the Code of Conduct. So this is what we've done. I don't think that it's anything particularly difficult. I mean, it just basically says we will follow the rules and we will follow the ethics that are laid out by CAT. And that's really not, in my mind, a really, really big deal. I've signed these things all the time, every place I've worked. So I really would like to go around quickly, have a one more discussion on it, and then I think we need to call for a vote, because we have to move on. We can't keep with this item. Looking ahead, we have a big presentation that Mike had prepared for paratransit, where we are with our paratransit reformation. We've got the strategic goals that we have to get into the public record for the minutes. We've got the RFP coming on board for the system redesign, which we're going to have to work with in February. And we have Jacksonville coming up to give us a presentation on their implementation of their system redesign. So we've got a lot of big things coming our way, and we can't, and the budget, and we can't continue to bog down with these things. And it's my opinion, and I know Curtis and Terry have the same opinion, that this will help us with the FTA when they come back next week or the week after that. So why don't we just go around the room, Mike? I don't know.
I have two questions related to it. Does this supersede this? Is this no longer valid? Or is this just some interpretive information?
That's the intention. In fact, you will see inserted in the.
Because I know it mentions the makeup of the board and the new one doesn't.
Right. You'll see in the memo, the agenda memo, that it is intended in the motion would include rescission, repeal, supersession of any and all existing board policy.
Okay, because there are some things in here that weren't
Right.
in here. Okay.
Just as long as it's supersession.
Is this still valid for anything? Because I found both of these in my packet, and sadly, I never read them.
Those were distributed along with the previous, or the earlier policy at the orientation
Right.
session we had at,
So were you still using this, or is this just informational for
That's
us
just
new
information.
guys? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, and I apologize for that, because
Well, I highlighted.
I forgot it was in there.
I think I highlighted.
I think you did too, that's why I probably
points
skipped
in
it.
there.
Specific things like Michael mentioned, such as the structure of the board and all, are codified other places, right?
In the Enabling Act, in the
So
CAT
that-
Act.
Okay.
This wouldn't superseding the ethics part of
No.
this wouldn't supersede anything else.
Right.
So,
I'm
you
sorry.
skipped
I'm
him.
sorry. One question I've got is the form that we have here in front of us now is exactly the one we read before, with the exception of the amended, that thing's right on the last page.
Right, on the last
Okay.
page, you'll see added, and this was a good point made by Mr. Jones, to specify exactly what is meant by public, including public admonishment and public request. We have inserted to make it clear that public admonishment and public request is specifically at a public meeting of the authority board recorded in the board minutes.
Okay, I'm good.
And that's done in D, E, F, and H.
Bill, any other?
I'm good. Thank you.
Tabitha?
So, did we take the existing policy and massage it and add what was needed, or we just wrote a whole new policy?
Well, with regard to ethics and conduct, it's a new policy based on the one from the center area of Pennsylvania. But that was one of many that Mr. French obtained from APTA.
But if our existing policy just needed some things amended, why did we not just amend the existing policy?
Frankly, it was my understanding that the intent was to set up a policy that would be signed, that would be separate from the earlier policy.
Right, but we could have amended the
You
earlier
could have.
policy and signed it.
Yes, you could have, but the earlier policy deals with things other than code of conduct and ethics. So this is specifically for conduct and ethics.
Here he is.
Dealing with conflict of interest and that's.
But we could have added those to that.
You could could have done that.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Welcome back, Pete.
Pete, good to see you.
We're glad to see you.
Thank you.
No longer a day worse than this, I will tell you.
Well, if you saw me a couple of days ago, I had them all over here, and they put some kind of stuff to make my,
Looks good, your color
most of my
looks good.
face to peel off. But, it's got that, and then my finger right here is still bleeding, where I stuck it in the ground to keep it from hitting and having a concussion. And this is cut, and another one is bleeding, still bleeding now. But that's okay. I'm sorry I missed the meeting, but I'll be talking to the city about what caused the accident.
Everybody else does. Go ahead.
I want to be at that meeting.
Okay.
See you people.
I'm sorry, Tabitha. I
It's
just
okay.
wanted to,
And then, what behavior or activities exactly did the FTA have an issue with that this didn't cover besides code of, what behavior of code of conduct was the problem?
The main issue that we wanted to make sure we covered in this was the chain of command structure between board members and the CEO. From the conversations they had with me and Terry, I know they had it with you, they were very concerned that we understand that we have one employee, and that's the CEO. And that it's not our jobs to go out and have private meetings without his knowledge or his presence with other employees.
And that was happening before.
It's happened. It has happened. And we want to make sure that it doesn't happen. Because the problem with it, you asked me this last night, the problem with that is it creates distrust between the CEO and his employees. And it creates distrust between the CEO and the board if he has people that are having interviews and meetings with his staff. And this is common throughout any organizational structure that we work directly with the CEO. And Mike, I think you've been involved in some of this before, where CEOs and CFOs and COOs have had different dealings with board members.
I have, and what it does is it's uncomfortable for the employees because of the fact that board members are supposed to deal through the CEO, and like Mr. French said, it does create distrust. So that's what I've seen.
Just as a point, I'm assuming that is in the policy that the employees sign, that they are not also supposed to have direct contact with board members outside of the board meeting?
Yes, at least I'm advised, yes.
Okay.
I have read
well,
that
because
policy in a while.
it should be a two-way street, it's not a one-way street.
And I'll give you just, and I think we
So
covered.
next year at the picnic.
We covered this at the,
Right after
the
the
orientation
meeting.
session.
Right after the meeting.
It will, I think I mentioned the fact that when CAT was set up in 1986 and started operation 1987, there was a very decidedly pointed intention to deal with a problem that the former transit authority, the Savannah Transit Authority, had of employees going to board members and board members going to employees, and the result was that it undermined the authority of the chief executive officer. It also caused, in fact, it got to be a problem with the board members being pestered by staff members and employees. And finally, the worst of all, politics got involved in internal matters at Savannah Transit Authority. So that was the intent at the time that CAT was established. And I can say that this is something that's standard, particularly in the transit industry, and that's because of FTA's concern that they look to grant recipients, they look to the staff and the people who are actually running the operation of the transit property, and they don't like undue influence from. They like for board members to set policies and to deal with and hire and relate to the CEO, but they're not happy with board members who contact or are contacted by staff members or employees.
I'm sorry.
Let me, I forgot to say this earlier, and this might head off one of your questions. The reason this document is so heavy on ethics is that this is a fraud investigation the FTA is doing. So this document probably deals a little heavier with ethics and conflicts of interest because of the situation of the audit that's going on.
Fraud investigation where?
Well, previous administration.
Previous administration, Dr. Reese.
Here?
Here,
Yes.
Chatham County, Chatham Area Cancer, and Dr. Reese.
It's in the newspaper, so that's how I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why we're a little heavy with this document on ethics and conflict of interest. Because the people we have here are investigating a fraud and an embezzlement.
Which could lead to them demanding
Their money
a
back.
lot of money back.
Like $300,000. So this is not something to take lightly.
And it's all legal, it's not, there's
But you
nothing in
need to
here
get
that
back
goes
to
beyond the
town.
scope of the laws of Georgia.
Jay,
Oh, it's out.
we're kind of working around the
I'm sorry.
table too, so.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
the
no,
votes. I
you
just
missed
got it.
we started with Mike and we're working our way around.
I ran
Tab,
out of questions.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay. What's the whistleblower policy for employees?
I haven't read this.
I mean, who do they, okay, so,
Recently.
I mean, I don't talk to staff really, except pleasantries. We don't talk about, I mean, I've never had a conversation with staff about
Wow.
what's doing what.
I'm-
But what happens if, staff has a problem within the organization and they don't trust administration? Who do they whistleblow to?
I'm sorry, Ms. Michael is not here, I don't think, but I think that Ms. Harrison can answer that.
Okay, good morning. So there is a code of conduct similar to this, but it handles staff and business conduct. And spelled out in that code and also in our training and our communication is a line of command where if they have an issue with their immediate supervisor, they are allowed to address that issue above their head.
Right.
If it's not resolved or heard to their satisfaction, there's an open door policy for them to bring that to their division chief. And if they can't get resolution or satisfaction there, they are welcome to take that issue to Curtis as CEO. There are also FTA whistleblower avenues.
Okay, so if they have an issue, if their issue is with Curtis, they have to file a complaint with the FTA against him?
Well, there are avenues with the FTA, yes, and they are spelled out in the circulars and the grant management and FTA operating requirements. There's also a Title VI program at CAT that gives them an officer to speak to and an investigation and a resolution system that way. And then they also have the local and regional civil rights process if they're not satisfied with how their complaint was handled internally.
So we wouldn't know that they had a problem with Curtis or with Mike or anybody until the FTA notified us. We would be outside of that?
I'm not sure exactly how the technical rules work, but Curtis would of course involve Mr. French in any issue that was unresolved or serious enough to have the board be aware, and it would be communicated to the board through Mr. French.
And see, that was part of what I'm thinking for what you just answered her and what Howard answered her. Now, if the board is Curtis's boss and the complaint is about Curtis, then that complaint should come to the board, shouldn't it, before it go to the
FTA?
According to this, it would go to the chairman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
To the chairman.
So it wouldn't go to the FTA first.
No.
It would come to the chairman, and the chairman would have to bring it to the board, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's what this
Okay, that's-
mechanism.
And that's fine. I was talking
that's
about
what-
the
yeah.
alternatives for resolution if it was not resolved within the organization. But if a staff person has an issue with the CEO, of course, that they would go to the chairman of the board.
Is this information posted in that lateral sense?
The policies
How
and
would you see that?
procedures have
I'm
been
looking
posted.
for it right
The
now.
Title VI program is
Whistleblower.
part
I
of.
see the whistleblower.
On violations
I'm listening.
underneath. Oh.
I'm listening.
Is it online?
Well, also, under duty to report,
Right.
which is above whistleblower, in violation of this code not covered elsewhere by law, it's covered. That anything, if there's a problem, it goes to the chairman of the board.
And now this says if it's
But this
criminal,
is-
then it goes to local law enforcement.
Well, if it's criminal, yeah.
Yeah, but this says, this applies to whistleblowing on us. It doesn't say, I mean, this complaint would go to the chair. I'm saying, where does it say that an employee who has a problem
It wouldn't say
with
anything.
Curtis
Well,
goes to the chair?
That's
They're not
covered
an
in the
employee.
employees.
We're not
contract.
It's in
employees.
theirs,
Yeah.
and we know it's in there.
Yes.
So why don't we have a
Because-
copy of that?
Because my only question is, you know, and I don't have any knowledge of anything going on, so don't think there's some subterfuge. What I'm saying is, if an employee has an issue and they feel that it's a significant issue, and they go to somebody they feel like they can talk to or trust or whatever, and it's not Howard immediately, then we're in violation?
Well, no.
Like if somebody called, say the person, you know, goes to Chester's church,
Mm-hmm.
or they work in your law firm, or their mother works in your firm. So they feel like, you know, mom says, oh, Mr. Broker's a really good man, I think you should talk to him. And then they come talk to you and not Howard. So then we're in violation?
You're supposed to say stop. Go talk to
Well,
Howard.
it does say it here in paragraph 8, board members who are approached by a CAT employee concerning the affairs of CAT shall refer that individual to the appropriate staff member and report the contact the CEO, executive director, but it also says when the executive director is the subject of the complaint, that it goes to the chairman.
So they can talk to us and we can take them to the chairman?
No.
Or no?
You have to refer it directly
You're supposed
to
to
the
say stop.
CEO.
Yes, right.
That's exactly what it says, stop.
Refer it to their immediate supervisor.
Either Curtis.
Now, it doesn't say that we can't be present with the chairman when we discuss it.
No, it doesn't, but the chairman was to handle it initially, and if he wants to invite others in to.
What I'm saying by this.
Yeah, but that means that nobody knows what it is.
Well, you know, at some point, you've got to have a level of trust in your chairman.
No, I want a level of trust, but the chairman is the chairman and he's one member. It's supposed to be a collective body that decides on some things. I'm not saying we have to vote on it or make a decision on it, but we should be made aware of it.
Yeah,
my biggest issue is that I don't want a whole bunch of things going on underneath this current, and I'm sitting on a board that I'm going to be held responsible for, and I have no idea that there's an underground bee's nest that's going to explode when I dig to put a petunia bush in.
Okay, and my only comment to that is I think you all know me well enough that if somebody comes to me and they're telling me that Curtis is embezzling, just to use an example, you guys are going to know immediately.
What if they come to you and say he's chauvinistic? Are we going to know immediately?
Of course I'm going to bring that up. I will. I'll promise you that. I mean, if you think back to all these discussions we had with salaries, raises, bonuses, I didn't do anything on my own. I brought it back to the board. And I feel that I'm just one of the board, and I tend to do what I feel the board wants me to do. And
right.
I'm not going to cover up.
I know, but my only issue
that Curtis is
that, but according to this, you could, because we don't have, the right to know, really.
Yeah, I think.
And my issue is not with your integrity. My issue is what the piece of paper is saying or does not say that limits my ability to function, or limits my ability to have an understanding or to be aware of. And mostly, I just want to be aware. And I'm not just giving Cat a hard time. I give the county a hard time about this too. I don't want to find out stuff in the newspaper. I don't want to know stuff later. And while I know that as a practice, you usually come to us and you send us emails and you tell us everything. But according to this, you don't have to. And if one time you didn't, you could fall back on the policy.
It's not about you.
Yeah, no,
it's not about you.
I got it.
It's about the seat. It's not about you.
And it's not about staff. But it's about, and while I know we can't put language in to accommodate every possible variable, it doesn't need to be so tight that the slightest thing, if I listen to something, if they come talk to me and I'm listening and I don't know till 62 words into the conversation I was supposed to say stop. I mean.
Well, that actually is the intent of what FTA wants. FTA, I don't know if you've had any dealings
I've had none.
with somebody like, an agency like FTA, but they are very, very strict, and they like for it to be very tight and clear. And I will say that it's in this policy, it says, it's page 6. If the board chairman or the vice chairman, if the complaint is against the chairman, it specifies it goes to the vice chairman. If the board chairman or the vice chairman chooses not to carry the issue further, the complainant may request a hearing, or the accused. The complainant or the accused may request a hearing with the entire board.
Where do you see that at?
Page 6.
I'm reading it. Just before you get to policy enforcement.
And then it says below, the CAT board shall then hear in executive session, to the extent permitted under the Georgia Open Meetings Act, the facts and circumstances of the alleged violation, and shall inform the complainant and accused of their findings. So it comes to the board ultimately if either party chooses to carry it that far.
Because the only thing the board can do is remove Curtis as CEO.
And is this complainant, and this is a complainant that is not necessarily one of us?
Well, anybody can make
anybody
can make a complaint that this policy's been violated by a board member.
No, right, not this policy. I'm not arguing. What I'm saying is a complainant can be anybody, an employee, a bus rider.
I think what you want to be clear on is if the complaint comes up the chain of command, and it's against Curtis, for example, and I get it, and I don't do anything with it, you want to be sure that there's a mechanism that you know. And it sounds to me from reading this that that person has the right to come to the full board.
Right, but
So I think that if
I read complainant as one of us whistleblowing on another member.
No, this is not directly related to the whistleblowing provision. This has any complaint, this is under the captain violations of this code.
Of this code,
Yes,
but what
it's-
about, okay,
Well,
that's what I'm saying, this code.
Right.
So what if, it wouldn't be a violation of this code, it would be a problem outside of this policy, it would be an employee.
That's covered by the employees code of conduct.
Right, so, I'm not explaining something, I don't think we're saying the same thing exactly. I don't think that based on the definition, an outside person is a complainant based on this definition. This seems like it applies to solely this board and our actions and complaints by one of us against another.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Another member.
Right, but that doesn't limit complaints about violation of this code to members of this board. Members of the board, someone who's not a member of the board can make a complaint to this.
Right, it doesn't,
But how would that?
but
play
it doesn't
into the
say
board?
that it doesn't. That's what I'm saying. The way that it reads complainant from within. So I guess what I'm saying is, if some information comes to us, I try very hard not to be in violation of stuff. And I don't think that, I think that the definition, while I understand you saying it's very stringent, so maybe we need to add another line or something, I don't know. I'm saying that based on this, it seems like the complainant is one of us against one of us.
That's possible, but it doesn't limit complaints to.
But it doesn't
those by
include
board
them.
members. I beg your pardon?
By other than a board member, a complaint other than a board member. Maybe that's what I'm saying. Yes, other than a board member.
And here's where I think Tabitha is in the same position I'm in. All right. This is dealing with just board members. It's not dealing with anybody else who make complaints, but board members. Now, right here it says, any alleged violation of this code not covered elsewhere by law and are already reported to the law, all right?
By a board member.
By any board member. It's only talking about board members. Shall be referred to the CAT board chairman, or when the board chairman is the alleged violation of the code, to the vice chair, all right?
That doesn't limit who
But
can
it
make
doesn't,
a complaint.
Right.
but it
no.
doesn't include them. And let me tell you, I don't know how y'all know, if y'all know anything about black church, but I go to a pretty big black church, and those grandmas come tell me stuff, and I'm all the way in a conversation before I know what's happening. You know, I could come across any information and wind up being in violation. While it does not exclude, it does not include, and I would be in violation. I could be sitting in Bible study, and we leave Bible study, and here she come. I don't know she coming to catch me about that. I didn't even know so many of my church members worked for the county or CAT. I really didn't know until I got elected. So no, it does not exclude them, but it does not include them. And if I come across information that this says I shouldn't know, then I'm automatically in violation and subject to.
No, I think you have to take the intent of this is if somebody comes to you at church with some information that says something really wrong is going on with CAT, what this asks you to do, or tells you to do, is tell the person, you need to take this to your immediate supervisor.
Yeah, that's not how the conversation goes. They don't start out saying my so-and-so works at CAT.
But
They wait till they give you the whole scenario, and then I say, well, where do they work?
Let me say, as you mentioned a moment ago, there's no way we can cover all possible situations in something like this. And certainly, any inadvertent conversation or any inadvertent situation where you're hearing what turns out to be a complaint, this is not for anything inadvertent. It's not going to automatically say you're in violation. It's intended to cover a situation. But when you realize that it's a complaint about cat operations, a cat board member, if it's coming from if it's an internal thing coming from an employee, then FTA would expect you, and this policy would expect you to say, stop, I'm not permitted to discuss this. You'll need to take that to your supervisor, you'll need to take that to the CEO, you'll need to take that to the board chairman. But this, it's not, it would not find you inadvertently in violation when you realize that it's an employee complaining about something internal for cat, then you would say, stop, I'm not permitted to discuss that.
And what I usually do with county is once I get it, I send it in an email to the county manager and say I instructed them to contact the chairman. But
That's fine.
you know, and then so we go along and then we never, you know, I don't know. I'm not.
My troubles with this is deeper even than Tabitha, and let me tell you why I say it's deeper than even with Tabitha. I've got not only church members, but I've got pastors, because I'm heading all of the pastors' organization now. I got pastors who will bring members to me, all right, who have a complaint, all right, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening, saying the pastor's coming and they have laid out the whole thing before they tell me.
They work at Chatham County.
Yeah, and what they're talking about, all right. Now, I do the same thing Tabitha do. When that happens to me with the county, all right, I either talk with the chairman or I talk with the county manager first, and then we handle it from there. Now, let's take the scenario Tabitha gave. Somebody in your law firm, right, goes to church with her. Her mother works in your law firm. The mother says, talk to Tabitha. Tabitha, then they tell Tabitha the story. Is she in violation if she then said, okay, listen, what I need to do is I need to arrange a meeting with you so you can go to Howard, and they bring that person to Howard? Are they in violation?
No.
Okay, but see, that's what we need. That's what we need to know, because those are the kinds of things we get caught in.
That's when we get caught.
I get caught in a pastor bringing a member.
And I think it's an additional sentence.
Yeah.
Somewhere that says, if a person outside of the board brings something to us, we give it to the chairman, because that's the instruction that we have at the county, and I think that's reasonable. That's what it's all in the stuff they gave us. So I think that's reasonable. I think it's reasonable to say that, because according to this, literally, I understand what you're saying. Procedurally, that's not what would happen, but that's not what the paper says. And at the end of the day, we're going to be held to the paper. It's like a prenup. Whatever y'all agreed to, and he's happy now, at the end of the day, when you get to the divorce, his whole persona is going to be, I don't remember telling you that, is what the paper say. I want the paper to say that.
To say what?
It should say that if a complainant from outside the board comes to us, then we are to give that to the chairman, and it does not it does not put us in violation of something. You know,
I think
somehow.
You give
But it
it
doesn't
to
say
the
that.
supervisor.
Right.
But I think if they tell us,
Only the CEO
but
complaints
if
come
if they tell us,
If they mention
we are under an
that, we should stop
obligation
talking
to
to them.
tell Howard. I
Okay.
think as a board member, we have to tell Howard.
I'm not going to get involved in all these things.
I know that.
You can tell me that, but I don't want to be involved in.
That's Curtis's
That's
job.
Curtis's job.
It is his job, and so we would tell her to go to her supervisor. But as the chairman, I think we're obligated to tell you if some information comes to us, just like we are in the county. I don't think that.
Ty,
Only if
what
it's
they're
not
worried,
handled.
I can tell what they're worried about is that they think that the ethics police are going to come down on them if they inadvertently get in a conversation with somebody from outside.
There are no ethics police. The first line of policing done with regard to code of conduct and ethics is this board.
Yeah.
But I see where they're if this is really uncomfortable for them, is there a line you could put in that inadvertent disclosures are not?
Or
What this
receiving
is really intended to do is if an employee has got a beef with CAT, and they've talked to Human Resources and they've talked to their supervisors and they can't get it resolved because maybe they're wrong. This is designed so that they don't come to board members and get the board member to intervene on their behalf. And that has happened at CAT. It's happened since I've been here. So I think this is the intent of this. We don't want board members coming in with an employee of your church.
Right, and I'm willing to sign something that says, as a board member, I'm willing to sign something that says, as a board member, I will not engage in activities that interfere in human resources or daily operation. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with how it's worded with these violations.
I think we're starting to split hairs here.
And it is splitting hairs, but the problem is when it's written, when it's a written piece of paper, it's different than an understanding.
Well, actually, what FDA wants is a written piece of paper.
Right.
It's signed, and not just
Understand.
an understanding.
So there should be something that we can add. Line, definition, understanding, I don't know. I can think about it, see what I think, I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going
Okay,
around.
go ahead.
So let's come back to this one. Let's move around, because, Frank?
All right. Here's my problem with all this, and I guess I'm the bad guy who started this, all right, and who started the special call meeting. I left here Tuesday under the impression that you all had sat down with the people from transportation, from the Federal Transportation Board. FTA. All right. And they said, this is what I need from you all by the time I get back. And they're coming Monday. And so we needed to pass this thing. All right. And I was concerned, and I told Ty this on the phone yesterday. I went back to make sure that what I was thinking was right, because I thought we had a code of conduct that I read during orientation. And I went back and found it because it's 2.1. I can tell you what it is, right? When I brought it up to him yesterday. And then I wanted to know, like Tabitha, if we had that, did they read that and say, this is not sufficient enough, you got to do more, so that's why we had this, all right? I found out now through emails that I read between all of you who were emailing, and you notice I didn't comment, I just read your emails, that there were no points concerning from the folks who were here when November, October, when they were here? When were they?
They were here the first week of November.
All right.
And
they didn't make any findings.
They're not done yet. They did.
All right, but hold it right there. Because I was left with the impression by what was said Tuesday was that they did make findings, and that's why we needed to do this. That's what I left here with. I found out through emails that there wasn't none. Jay emailed Curtis, and Curtis said there were none. All right. What I was looking for was, them to say 2.1 wasn't sufficient enough, it wasn't detailed enough, it wasn't whatever enough. That's why we were going here. And I found out from Ty talking to him yesterday that was not the case, but we thought, and I'm like Tabitha, if you had 2.1, why couldn't we expand it to include those things that you all talked about to those folks in November? And that would be sufficient. Why just throw all that in the trash and say, okay, we're going with this new one? And I said it on Tuesday. That seemed to me as plagiarism, because all we did was copy whatever they said and put CAT in there rather than Pennsylvania in there, okay? And I was not satisfied with that. Now, to come back and find out that that was a misrepresentation of the truth, that those folks did not give you points of do this, do that, do that, do this by the other. Out of your conversations with them, you drew a conclusion that this would be better, and I'm not saying that this isn't better. What I'm saying is, if in November they said that, we should have had this document by the end of November and had some meetings and committees and stuff and gone over line by line so that we can cover what her apprehensions about this, cover what my apprehensions about this, rather than jumping in here on Tuesday and passing something and signing something that, as I said Tuesday, that I was very uncomfortable with, because I did not have the time to explore all of this. And I knew that whole orientation package that you had given me, I read it line by line, point by point, section by section, and if you see mine, see what you've given me, and Mike just held up his, that you all gave to him, see, I read through all of this, and I read through it a long time ago, and I knew this was in there, see, and I knew in here, in 2.1, there is a code of ethics, see, and I knew where I had read through and highlighted those things that I had trouble with, that I had questions about, that I had problems with. But now on Tuesday, I was led to believe that we just had to throw this away and we had to pick this up by Monday when those folks get here, and they may be here 2 weeks. Now I come up on Tuesday night and I start seeing the emails, and I'm finding out that the impression I left here with was not what's going on. See, I have problems with that.
Okay, can I address that?
Sure.
Chester, I never said that the FTA was done and the FTA had found us in non-compliance.
That's not what I said.
I have been clear that we are trying to get ahead of this curve, and that the FTA is coming back. And they're going to finish the audit. It should be clear, and I'm going to bristle a little bit here. It should be clear to everybody, based on the conversations that we've had, that this audit is not done. I don't know how anybody would have the impression that there were findings, because the audit is ongoing.
The impression of findings is because we keep saying it at these board meetings, findings. Don't say findings if there's no findings to be found. That's my only point I'm trying to say.
The word used was concerns. They expressed concerns. They indicated needed to be addressed.
And I agree with you.
That's what we're doing.
Ty, I agree with you. But the thing is, the word finding was brought back, and then every time a discussion comes from somebody here, then we say recommendation, or then we say findings, or we say some other kind of unilateral word. If we're trying to be transparent, we're trying to move forward, you put everything out there. Why don't I know all the recommendations or all the findings?
Because
I just know
don't know,
as
Jay,
it comes.
We don't know any of them.
But the thing is, you say you don't know any, but every now and then we drop one, and that's not fair.
We don't know. I don't know, Terry. I don't know if you know any.
You say you don't know one, but here's one right here.
This
right here.
This is one. No, Jay. What I've been saying with this document right here is that based on the conversations that I had, and I'll leave them out of this, based on the conversation I had with the auditors, I felt that there is a area that we need to tighten up, and it involves ethics, and it involves code of conduct, and it involves conflict of interest, based on the conversations of the interview they had with me. Nothing else, and I've been very clear with this. It's based on the conversations we've had that they expect that we should be farther along with this than we are. That's where this came from, and I've been clear with that.
But
this is getting ahead of the curve.
But it wasn't. But we're going around the elephant in the room. We have a document.
The document we have is not signed.
Can I finish my point? We have a document. I understand it's not signed. I understand all that stuff you're trying to say, but it's a document from 2012. This was never mentioned until we brought it up today. And a lot of language in this is same language in here.
Let me point out, please.
That's not fair.
That in the agenda memorandum, it specifically says that this would supplant or replace, repeal, and supersede any previous policy. What's more, as Mr. Ellis has pointed out at the orientation session, that we had over on Gwinnett Street, the old policy was distributed.
Yeah, and see, and I'm getting back to that, all right? I'm getting back to that because I knew that.
We're gonna go for a vote.
And I knew that, and I knew, but see, and this is an email, and see, these are what I'm talking about. This email was sent at 3:58, Tuesday, all right? When Jay sent this to Curtis in regards to time and attention. I don't recall when the FTA's findings were given to all the board members, all right? And Curtis writes back that there is no FTA findings, okay? That was the first time that after Tuesday morning that I knew that there were no FTA. I left here thinking that the reason why we were pushing this was because we needed to have this document in place by the time they get here Monday.
Understood.
That's what I left with, because that was said in this room, that the FTA findings were, all right?
I never heard that.
Now, well, regardless of whether you heard it or not, but it was said, because I left here with it.
Can we get the minutes, because I want to have this clarified right now with the minutes from that meeting where that was said.
All right.
This can go on for another 6 weeks.
Well,
This is a motion. You said you had conflict with this policy from a year ago. How come you haven't said a word in a year? You highlighted your conflicts with the policy of the board.
Excuse me, but I haven't been here a year.
When did you get this package?
I got this package, what, August or whatever?
So in 6 months, you haven't had a problem?
No.
No. Then why wasn't it brought up prior to this?
In 6 months, I've been talking to what those situations were. That's what, it wasn't until Tuesday. In fact, it might have been some days before Tuesday in an email that I got this.
So did I. I got it on Friday like all the
All
other
right,
packages.
That's when I started to wonder, well, what?
Got it on last week.
Yeah, when I got that, that's why I started to wonder, well, why is it that we have to just wipe out what that I was given back in August when we had it, or September, whenever we had the orientation?
Yeah, I got it at the same time.
Okay, but I think I did, okay. But whenever I got this, I wanted to know why the 2.1 in here was being trashed and this was thrown in place, or being put in place.
Because we felt this was better.
Okay.
For the circumstances that we're under.
But that was not what I was given Tuesday. That was not what I was given Tuesday, that we felt this was better. It wasn't until I talked to Ty yesterday, when Ty said, well, the chairman feels that this would be better, right?
The chairman recommended this.
Right, that this would be,
And
right.
he has the right to do that, I understand.
Yeah, and I understood that, all right? But again, I'm saying, if you talk to those folks in November, and we felt we needed to update this, all right, and update the ethics part and the code of conduct and all that, which is what I'm for, because like anybody else, I don't want to get across that line. I listen real close when you talk about when Dr. Reed was here and certain people were being left out certain meetings and not being told certain things and those kind of things. And as I sit on this board, I have a problem with if 2 or 3, even if 3 board members get together and make up something and say this is what we're going to do and don't bring it to the rest of us, and then want the rest of us just to sign off because they have made. I don't work that way, all right, and that's not going to fly with me. You have a whole lot of problems with me when you're trying to do stuff like that. Now,
can I call the motion?
If
Right
this,
that motion.
no, you're not gonna call no motion while I'm talking. I didn't call no motion while you were talking, so don't even go there with me.
I have that
Now,
right as a board member. I want to call the
any
motion.
right you want to do, but you set the parameters by saying we were going around this table. Am I correct? All right. It's my time.
I also set the parameter that we're not going to go in circles. We're
All
going
right.
to go in circles.
But this is my time, and I'm going to use my time wisely. I ain't going to throw it away. And I'm still saying, I left here with misrepresentation of what was told to me. I come back and find out beginning at, in fact, I didn't read it till sometime early in the morning hours because I was gone all day Tuesday. But early in the morning hours of Wednesday, that's when I started reading the emails back and forth, and I found out saying, well, I thought we were doing this because these people said we needed to have this in place by the time they get here Monday. See, Ty even tried to get in touch with me, couldn't get in touch with me Tuesday.
That's right.
Because I was locked out. I was locked out any county business, city business. The only thing I was dealing with was church affairs. And I dealt with that until 11:15 at night. All right? So what I'm saying to us is, going forward, if we're going to change things, if we're going to rewrite things, let's do it in such a time and manner that we can do it in committees like we have, then bring it together as a group so everybody will have the same understanding. I want all of us to stay on the same page.
It was my understanding that it had been discussed in executive session and
We discussed
perhaps in
the
committee
need
meetings
to.
too.
But there was no, there was an executive session, but there were 3 people who were not tied to that executive session. So that needs to be included too.
Well,
Okay, I think that if I can,
And that's
if I
getting
can
logic back.
get the meeting back, I mean, I think that going forward, I understand that going forward, if we do something like this again, everybody wants to be involved, and we will do it in a committee session. But I will say that I gave this to everybody Tuesday and Wednesday with plenty of time to read, plenty of time to have questions, plenty of time to have comments. We didn't hear boo until we got to the meeting, when everybody wanted to table it. And we lost a lot of valuable time at that meeting for a lot of other valuable stuff that we should have been focused on.
Okay,
So in my mind, I understand that there's concerns at the table, but I feel like we need to put this behind us. We're wasting too much time on it. I'm going to ask to call for a vote. If it passes, we'll adopt it. If it doesn't, then we'll table it.
My reasoning behind the call to vote is this: everybody had a chance. And you gotta give everybody equal opportunity to be able to speak before you call that vote. Because what you're saying right now is you're saying to me and Bill Broker and
I'm
Pete
happy
can't
to
have that conversation.
I'm happy to have this conversation keep going if new things come up. What we're doing now is we're rehashing, and we're talking in circles, and we're not getting anywhere.
Well, this is a new thing.
No?
Tuesday is not enough time. I didn't get to read it Tuesday. I honestly didn't get to read it until Thursday. Some of us are retired, some of us aren't.
Oh, don't
So,
even start with that.
I read it on Thursday,
Please.
before the meeting. I did.
You think you're more important than us? Is
I
that
don't
what you're
think I'm
telling
more
us?
important, but what I'm saying
I
is.
got it and I was able to read it.
Are you
That's
really
part of
still-
your job.
It is part of my job, but I got another job too.
So do I.
So,
I'm missing
I don't
my job
understand.
this morning to be here for
You're giving me
Whoa,
24 hours?
whoa. Let's
go to
all
executive
calm
session
down.
or something.
No, we can't.
Let's finish the conversation, Bill.
Just as a point of order, I will mention, you can't interrupt another person who's speaking, but
Correct.
at any point during when a motion is on the floor, at any point, any member can move the previous question. That terminates debate, and you take a vote on either vote it up or down.
So we can vote right now?
Yes.
Well,
If
let's
somebody
do
moves
it.
the previous
This
question,
is
gets a
getting
second.
embarrassing. So I would like to call for a first and a second to take a vote on this.
I
to approve
motion.
it. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, all those in favor of adopting this code of conduct, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstains? Okay, so the motion carries.
Who voted?
You, yes or no?
Well, let me just say this quickly.
Y'all have the committee. I'm
When
going.
the Chatham County Commission, and
Y'all
Ty
give me
is
time to
familiar
talk.
with this, the commission was in place and they ran the system. And in that, the FTA came down here with a group of people from the FTA, and they wanted to take money back from, just a minute, Jay. They
I'm
wanted
leaving,
to
man,
take
because
money
we're
that
not
they
gonna be
had
carrying on
not
practice.
spent.
I don't have a choice, Jay. We're almost having a fist fight with the board. So it's time to
Understood,
just
but,
put this
but
past.
in part of Robert Rules of Order, you put a time limit on debate. You should have put a time limit on debate that will allow everybody a chance to be able to speak. And that's what should have been done.
Okay, well,
and that's
we
not
have,
my fault.
we have voted on it.
I mean, it's fine,
And
and
it's
I have we've done business here, so I can leave. That's what I'm trying to tell people.
Okay.
Anyway, quickly, what I was trying to tell you, that the FTA came into Savannah with several of their board members of that organization.
Pete, I'm sorry, but,
I think he's just clarifying the point.
yeah, but Ty is raising the question that you're out of order by talking now. So I'm trying to get some semblance of order back to the meeting. Ty?
Well, the point was that once the previous question has been moved, that terminates debate, but in this situation, you've actually voted on it. So I don't see any harm with Mr. Lukakis stating his rationale for his vote, but
Because
debate
he was also
is
not
over.
here on Tuesday.
Okay.
Debate is over.
But you got a bigger problem than that, Ty.
What's that?
You got a problem where you gonna put forth a document that says, you need the board members to sign, and as a board member, I'm not signing it.
Well,
So now how you gonna do that on Monday?
I have a hard time understanding why there would be a reluctance to sign a code of ethics or a code of conduct and ethics probably.
Because of the way it was done. And because of the misinformation that was given on Tuesday. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is.
Okay.
All right? And
So
you
we
know,
had the discussion.
when I spoke with you on the phone, I said what my reservations were.
Yes.
And my reservations are still the same. We don't need to push this down nobody's throat by Monday. We don't.
Well,
But we voted on it, and it is,
Right, listen, we voted, that's fine, the vote is what it is, but I'm telling you, as one of the board members, I'm not signing it. And I'm not signing it because of the way it's being done. I don't have problems with having ethical things in place. I work with that every day when I work with the county. When folks come to me, even when folks from other folks' district come to me with complaints, come to me with concerns, I take it to whomever district is in, I take it to the chairman, I take it to the manager, the county manager. We get it resolved. We could have done that right here, rather than doing what we just
well,
did.
there's certainly been full debate starting on Tuesday.
Yeah, but you shut Bill, Pete, and Jay out. That's what he's upset about. The rest of us, you didn't call a time limit, you didn't call anything. See, you can't push your personal own agenda in a boardroom. I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you.
Chester,
But you need for all the board members to sign this document. And if my signature is what throws it in the trash can, then buddy, it's deep 13. Because I'm not signing it because of what you just did. And I'm letting you know that before I leave here.
I would like a motion to adjourn the meeting. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Only thing I want to quickly say, the meeting is over. I understand that. But I've been with the FTA, and when they send auditors in, and what happened, and Ty can tell you that they wanted this ethics and conduct. They wanted that, and because certain things happened and all, it wasn't done there. But later on, that we did that, and Ty was familiar with all of those particular things because we were able to secure it, and it was all taken care of.
Point well made, Pete.
Good point.
So you're safe to drive there, Mr. Lukakis? Are you okay to drive?
Yeah.
Or did you get a ride here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm still hurting.
Yeah, I can see.
Pretty bad.
I've taken some of those falls.
See, what happened is, when I hit that, Michael, this whole piece, listen to me now, it peeled back, the whole nail peeled back to here. And then I pushed it and got it down there, back in here, but it's still bleeding, as you can see.
Yeah, if you take
You
it
know,
down,
on
so
that,
reattach it.
and see how this is. So when I put my right hand down, when I fell, it tore that off of there. And I had all kinds
what
of
hit you
marks
here?
here. I
You
had,
hit the concrete too?
yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah.
You went
But
face down.
well, I went down like
Oh,
this.
man.
They were
And,
late.
Bless you, you're still,
But the
okay.
way I did
My
to secure
understanding
myself,
was three
you know what happened?
opposed, everybody else a
I
four.
was able to not get any concussions and nothing on the neck, because I went directly
Yeah,
to
because
the
I don't notice where
emergency
you're
and
showing the
spent
concussion
5 hours.
signs.
Michael, I was in that emergency room 5 hours taking different kind of tests and all of that.
Of course. Well, I don't notice any sign. Concussion signs are pretty straightforward, and
Yeah.
one is confusion, and I don't notice any. So good, you're okay.
Yeah.
We were all worried. We were talking about it after the meeting Tuesday. Did Pete call anybody? We didn't know what had happened, and I talked to Howard yesterday, and he said, "Oh, we found out." Well, you were in the emergency room.
I really
Yeah, we just
didn't
verified that.
even
Mr.
know
Franklin
about
just
the
told me,
meeting.
And that was mine.
Everybody said, I mean, there were three.
Well, I'm
Because
sure
it
your
was,
time frames were
well,
thrown
what
off after
happened
you
was,
fell.
Confusion
it
was
put
Pete
in
was
another
thinking, raising his
area
hand.
instead of me
Speak.
getting it.
Yes.
And see how I found out about it? Because Beverly
might want.
Ain't she-
told
ain't
me
she the
that
one?
we had a meeting.
If we're allowed, then we would know for sure.
Yeah.
I love this. She keeps me informed, and she just drove down. She's been all over the place.
And I don't think that's right.
Pete, you voted yes?
Huh?
You voted yes to sign, to adopt the?
Yeah, I voted for it.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Folks, back to Armstrong.
So do you teach or?
No, I'm auditing classes that I had this morning.
Somebody take notes for you?
My nephew's in the class. It's criminal justice too, Tom.
My child is taking criminal justice classes.
And
He
my
loves
nephew's
it.
pre-law, so this is his guided path. We're
Yeah,
in.
I'm pushing him toward law, but I'm thinking he's
So time.
a police officer in the making, which is good too.
Our family is loaded with them.
With, not learning something to sign.
No, I think that's the only, there's 2 curriculums that Armstrong has that leads to law school, and that's one of them.
You didn't even drink it after all that complaining to Lorenz?
Sorry, make half as much next time.
After all that, he didn't drink all this coffee?
I heard.
I'm sorry.
And somebody.
Yeah, not on any fault
Today,
of
the
your own. We
25th.
drank it before it was actually fully brewed, so it's pretty potent.
Yes.
And I just.
It's like a two sip to wake up.
I like that.
That's a Georgia thing, because I have found one place in town that I can go get a cup of coffee that does it. Like, I drink it all day, because I'm from where you drink it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, in between. And we drink it weaker because we're drinking like gallons of it. The first time I went into like Sunnyside and took a sip of the coffee, I almost spit it out, it was so strong.
Yeah, I used to let a pot just sit, where you'd have a pot like that, just let it sit on the warmer so long that it cooks
It's
down.
fun. My partner used to do that. Every time we wanted to make new coffee, I'd ask Neil, you want this crud that's in the bottom of the pot? He goes, oh yeah, because he does the same thing at home, and it's a matter of.
How you feel?
So Pete, you sure you're
Sip
okay?
on it for a long time, and it gets.
You don't look nearly as bad as I expected you to
And
look.
then microwave it and
Salt.
keep
I
regenerating.
had, you
It's
see,
I used to drink it, people ask me,
they
it's
were
95,
all
you drinking
over
coffee?
here.
It's 95
Actually,
degrees. I said, yeah.
they did like,
In the winter, do you drink
special
sweet
stuff
tea with
they
ice?
did,
Yeah? Oh,
on
what's the
there and
difference?
all.
But I'm not a Georgian, I'm not gonna
Right
criticize
here,
Georgia.
when that hit the ground, this nail peeled all the way over to here.
I'm surprised he
And
still got
like
it.
that
Went to dinner
because
one night,
the force of the
when they
fall.
took our order, I said,
I didn't want to cut. So anyway, I pulled it back and stuck it in there.
Make good order iced tea and.
That's enough.
I mean,
Yeah, because
and
they're
it still
brewing
hurts.
coffee. I had a 7-Eleven, we had
But that.
24 pots of
That
coffee
hurts.
brewing every morning,
What you're supposed
including
to say,
6
Pete,
different
you
flavors.
see the other guy.
And we had one
Yeah, he
guy
said
who
somebody-
One guy
worked.
came
Oh,
out
supposed to say
and
that.
Mr.
Yeah,
Humperdinck
yeah,
is in
yeah.
worse shape.
We sold
when I went
1,600
down
cups
on
a
the
day.
ground, there was a guy
In a small town
recognized me
with a
that was
population
coming
of
out of the
3,000,
theater there.
winter population
And he
is
and a couple of
1,600.
others picked me up.
I don't
off
think
the
anybody
ground
brewed it at home.
And wanted to drive me,
Jittery
rather than
town.
I want to go to
I
the
threw away
hospital
my
or whatever.
coffee maker
I
when we
said,
went to
well, I'm gonna
7-Eleven.
pick up my
I hadn't
wife
made coffee
and,
for 13
We're
years.
going, I'll take care of that. We went to the
And it was
emergency
perfect
room
every
and
morning
spent
'cause it was
5
always
hours
fresh.
there.
Always there.
The cat
All right,
scan,
so we should-
I'm glad you survived.
Well, I'm glad you're doing
New York
better.
Fish Fight at,
Apologize.
Thank you.
CAB board meeting?
I didn't wear my
And
boxing
who gets
gloves.
these?
Beverly can take it and get it to the chair. Beverly can take it.
It had to be.
I'm sorry that nobody.
And just print my name.
Doesn't matter.
I'll give you it.
I have the right to call a motion anytime, at any point.
Yeah, I'm not drinking.
Once Tabitha started.
We kept going back to the same item.
Don't get this one.